Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Complex here on the Horn. On today's show, we'll get into some more Texas football talk and some interesting developments in the world of Arizona football and how it's affecting Texas football. We'll get into that. Some more NFL games finished in the playoffs last night. We'll recap those, go back into the Cowboys and what happened with the Cowboys and what is next for the Dallas Cowboys. Coaching carousel in the NFL, Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day, more NBA talk, college basketball talk, and a whole lot more, including your text messages, 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line here on the Horn. That is where we like to have you join in the conversation, bring up your hot takes, your questions, your comments, your concerns, whatever you got, send them in on the text line. We try to get to every single text on the show because you guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. So we appreciate you guys always joining in with us and having a good time here on the Sports Complex. We are getting to where we are getting out. The sun came out today. It's still very cold, but the sun did come out. I think we got into 32, 33 now. So we're getting to where we may get out. It'll freeze again tonight, but then tomorrow we're supposed to get above freezing and hopefully thaw some things out. And, I had a cooler outside, just frozen solid right now. So, hopefully we'll get and thaw back out before the weekend and another freeze or whatever else is going to be happening. But I think we're getting through the worst of this one. So everybody who did buy all the toilet paper, I hope your toilet paper is good and all the water. I hope you enjoy the water. Everybody who panic shopped, I went to the store and bought some stuff too. I did too. I just said, but I got like 3 days worth of stuff that I'm just going to eat anyway. So I didn't go too crazy. I went to, let me just go ahead and get this now because the last time this happened, I was extremely underprepared. Actually, 2 times ago. It was not Arborgeddon. It was Snowpocalypse or whatever that was. I don't remember all the names anymore, but that one, I was completely unprepared, and I was like, I will go to the store tomorrow. I'll just walk to the store, and then realize I couldn't walk on the ice. So I get it. I get it preparing, but, I'm happy that we're getting to the point where we're going to get out of this, and it was not too bad this time. It's still early in the year, though, so fingers crossed we'll keep it going. Let's get into some sports talk, and let's get into a little recap of Texas football. We'll hit this up. We'll get into the 5 o'clock hour. We'll talk some basketball. We'll talk a lot of NFL and football in this first hour. And whatever you guys want to talk about on the text line, you guys drive the show. So the reports are today, though. Arizona has hired Brent Brennan from San Jose State to take over as their new head coach. If Jedd Fisch took the job at Washington, we talked about yesterday about what that meant for Texas in that that Johnny Nansen, the defensive coordinator, the co-DC and linebackers coach for Texas that was hired, could be an option for the head coach at Arizona. Well, that did not seem to come to fruition, that he's not the head coach. However, there are reports today that Dwayne Aquina, who was reportedly coming to Texas to take a role on Sark's coaching staff to come back to Texas, the legendary defensive backs coach here at Texas, has apparently been offered a job back at Arizona now from Brent Brennan and his crew in the Arizona school, and he is allegedly going to go back and take that job. And according to the players still who had a hashtag of hire Nansen for the head coach position, are still working, and they would like to see Johnny Nansen come back as defensive coordinator and whatever extra role that would mean and what extra money that would mean for him, so that there is people that are actively trying to get him to come back and be the defensive coordinator, that if there was, a rift between him and Jedd Fisch, if there was a rift between or what his position was and how much power he had or any of that information, who knows? He does. He's probably the only one. But the question is, can they get him to come back? And they may pony up some more money because a lot of their defensive players are very big on Johnny Nansen, and any of those could enter the portal. So we will see if they hire a different DC. They do keep him. Texas did have a recruit that did not show up because Texas not hired a defensive line coach. So a lot of these things are starting to take effect of who you're able to find and who you're able to get. Alabama is expected to keep Freddie Roach, which takes another defensive line coach off the board for Texas. But that search is ongoing right now as well for Texas to find their next defensive line coach, as Bo Davis took the job at LSU. But they could be in a search for a linebackers coach again if Nansen goes back to Arizona. If he decides to stay, then that will mean that, we could see a different edge of maybe possibly a linebacker or a DB or somebody like that coming over from Arizona as well in that transfer portal. But that's all still up in the air. That's the biggest updates we've heard. We've not heard much more. I don't know if they'd be able to give that amount of money to Nansen to be the defensive coordinator, if they saved some, Brent Brennan didn't need enough or whatever it was, or if it was really a problem with Jedd Fisch and now they feel like he would rather come back and be the DC than a linebackers coach and co-DC at Texas. All those questions will have to wait a little bit longer, because if you're trying to find information, most of the information that's out there still is that he was in the process for the head coach job. So, it's been a wild week and a half or so for Johnny Nansen, that the guy goes from being the defensive coordinator on the Arizona Wildcats. He then takes kind of a step backwards, but into a bigger program, to come to Texas to be the linebackers coach and co-DC with PK. And then he takes that, and now he gets a head coaching opportunity, an interview at Arizona. They do not hire him for the head coaching position, but he may go back to where he was before. It's all a lot of speculation at this point to see where he goes. Hopefully for Texas, though, he stays at Texas and they do not have more turbulence in that coaching staff. It is part of what happens when you are a team like Sarks is, and when you start to have success, that there is more and more attrition. And, you're going to try and get the best guys, but that means everybody else is trying to get them too. It is what it is. Looking over at the NFL, the Steelers and the Bills played the early game yesterday. We're giving you updates on that. It seemed like the Bills were running away with it early. The Steelers did put up a fight. It was never really in question, but there were times you thought that possibly if the Steelers could get a big stop, or if they were able to move the ball a little bit better, they would be able to do it. Josh Allen did what Josh Allen does. He had 200 yards passing, 203 yards, and 74 yards on the ground. He was just able to move the ball well enough. And I think the real story of this game for the Bills, and I know a lot of people are coming out and saying the Bills really dominated and the Bills look really good. I don't think the Bills look great in this game. I was watching it while doing a show and then watched the end of it after the show. I think they look good, but injuries have taken them down. You're talking about playing a Steelers team with Mason Rudolph as a starting quarterback, with an offense that's been kind of, anemic the entire year. You're talking about a defensive lineup without TJ Watt, and you're still not able to blow them out. And I get it was very cold. I get that, but that's going to be what's going to be again this weekend against Kansas City. You have all of that. But the real reality of why the Bills were able to handle this game, they didn't have any turnovers. One of the biggest problems that Josh Allen has had his entire career is that he gives away games, fumbles, interceptions, and he gives opportunities to the other team. And if you give the Steelers 2 more opportunities in this game, who knows how it ends up? The Steelers could easily have been much closer in this game if you say a field goal and a touchdown out of a couple turnovers from the Bills. That could lead you to the point where the Steelers are in this game with no TJ Watt, with a quarterback situation that's not been great all season long, with Kenny Pickett early and then going to Mason Rudolph. And the Steelers are going to have their own worries now. Fans are getting restless in Pittsburgh because Mike Tomlin continues to make the playoffs, continues to have winning seasons, but continues to lose in the playoffs. They just don't have a good enough team, and they're getting that draft pick right in the middle, and it's hard to continue to build. And so they get guys like TJ Watt, but then he's injured, and they haven't, they drafted Kenny Pickett, and it doesn't seem like he's the guy, but maybe it's just a coaching hiring. You get guys like George Pickens who can clearly play really well, but I don't know if he's bought in, and we'll talk more about buy-in on this next team. But it seems that I don't know if I'm still all in on this Bills team, but we'll see what they go next week playing against Kansas City in Buffalo will be a big matchup. That Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. What's crazy is it's Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, and the next year it's Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes, but it always seems to be Patrick Mahomes, and wonder if we'll ever get to that Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen, because it's kind of a love triangle. feuds and rivalries, but it's not quite the triangle because Burrow and Allen can't stay healthy and good at the same time, so we'll see what happens there. But the Bills get the win. They move on. And no turnovers from Josh Allen. That's the best sign you're going to see as a Bills fan. Of everything else, they played pretty well, had some more injuries, but this is a Bills team that gets the win. Then the Eagles take on the Buccaneers, and the Eagles don't show up. Buccaneers win 32-9. Baker Mayfield puts up 337 and 3 TDs. I'm going to play some sound from Hook 'em Up in a little bit, talking about Baker Mayfield and what that season is, so we won't go too far into that. Crazily in this game, no turnovers, either team. Clean enough game that way, but the Eagles just cannot move the ball. Eagles 0 for 9 on third down. They did not pick up a third down the entire game. They didn't pick up a fourth down. That's 0 for 11 on third and fourth down. Those money downs, 0 for 11. And for Todd Bowles and that defense, that's 11 for 11 on money downs. So you can pack both those in there, that this Todd Bowles defense is playing at a really high level. And a lot of times early in seasons, we see it, these defensive teams that need a little bit of time to get used to it. It takes a little bit of time, and it seems that Todd Bowles has gotten that, and they're an actual defensive team now that's playing at a high level. If Baker continues to play at this pace, I don't know how far they can go in the playoffs, but I know they're going to be a lot more competitive than some people gave them a shot to be. But for this Eagles team, where do you go from here? Nick Sirianni goes from this hero in the Super Bowl and this great coach who's got everything going for him. They hire both his coordinators out. One goes to Arizona and the other goes to Indianapolis. And all of a sudden, it looks like there's no magic left in there. But what I talked about earlier, what I just said earlier, the buy-in, man, what it looked like in this Philly team is they have some rats in the locker room. And they have some dissension in the locker room. And I don't know where it's coming from. I would tell you the guy that I would look at first, but that's only because of his past, and I may be way off because I don't know the guy, but I would look at Matt Patricia first, and I'd say, why I don't know why he gets hired anywhere ever again. Personally, if it's me, I would need to understand how it went down, and I have to talk to other people, not just him, to figure out how every time he's there, the buy-in of the team is almost at zero. When he was at the Lions, there was zero buy-in. When he was with the Patriots, that second run, there was zero buy-in in Mac Jones in that offense. Zero. So much limited buy-in that Mac Jones had to secretly call his offensive coordinator from college to try and get advice. That's how little buy-in there was there. And then the defense. When you watched them last night, was there any buy-in in that defense? Was there anything in that defense that made you think that they cared at all about playing football? Like, that they cared at all about being there? That they saw the writing on the wall? That they didn't care? And it wasn't even that they weren't good enough or didn't have enough talent, because they clearly have talent. But none of them cared. The tackling wasn't there. Nothing was there for this Eagles team. And it goes to, clearly there's a problem, and if you look at the problem, the coach has to figure it out. And if you're the Eagles now, you have to go to Sirianni and you have to make some hard decisions. I don't think we need to fire Sirianni. I don't think the Eagles need to fire Sirianni if you're the guy on top. But I think you do need to go to Sirianni and ask him, how many people are firing? Who is the snake in the locker room? Who is the rat in the locker room that walked around and undermined other people? Who was in that locker room who was going around and shutting down the buy-in? Who was in there that said it's not going to work? Who's the one who said, my ideas work better, you should go with mine? And then when they didn't work, you couldn't save anything because the buy-in was gone. You split the locker room. You see Jason Kelce saying he's going to walk away, which I get when you're dealing with that much pain every day and trying to go out there and play, and you've put your life into this. And, you get to the end of the season and all the politics behind, and now maybe you have a second career in broadcasting and podcasting and whatever else you want to do. You're now a personality that people want. I mean, it's going to take a lot less pain, and you'll spend some more time with his family and all of that. I get why he'd want to walk away from this. But that should tell you what the buy-in is in Philly right now. So if you're a Cowboys fan, that's the one positive you can look at. As bad as it is in Dallas right now, it doesn't seem as bad as in Philly, where the buy-in is at zero. And they don't know what to do because you have to figure out the people that are there. And this is coming from a Texans fan who can tell you the Texans' buy-in was at 0. With Bill O'Brien, the Texans' buy-in was at 0. And with Jack Easterby, the Texans' buy-in was at 0. All the players didn't want to be there. They wanted to win, and they want to go out there and play well. I'm not saying these players don't want to play well for themselves. That doesn't do anything. And believe me, when we talk about Texas basketball in the 5 o'clock hour, I'll tell you the same thing. You have to have a goal. You have to have a buy-in and a team. If you look at what Texas football did this season, one of the things unified about this team was they believed in the coaching staff and they believed in what they were doing. And it made a huge difference. Guys were in the right spot. Guys were blocking by the end of the season. Everyone was doing what they needed to do to get the team to be where they needed to be. And the Eagles don't have that. The Cowboys are not quite the same story because we'll get back to the Cowboys now and talk a little bit about where they're at. And if you look at the Cowboys right now, they're in a tough position because as much as you can look at, and again, I'll say I would have fired Mike McCarthy because I don't think the guy's a leader. I think he's a good offensive coordinator. The more I look at it, I think what he did to this offense, I think he built a good game plan. He called some good plays. He's a good offensive coordinator. And Dan Quinn's a good defensive coordinator. And you needed somebody, which what Jerry wants to be, and I know Jerry wants to be it, but you needed somebody to be the guy and walk into a room and get mad and get these players pumped up and get these players to be accountable for each other and get these players to be accountable to themselves and be accountable to the team and to get to do the things that you don't want to do in these big games, to get them mad, to get them to believe that the Packers are a threat and you have to take them seriously. And if you don't, they will take the bread out of your mouth. They will take the food out of your children's hands for themselves if you allow them to. And the Cowboys allowed them to. You have to have that coach that gets you fired up for every game of the year, and you'd have to know how much and everything else. And Mike McCarthy's not that guy. Dan Quinn's apparently not that guy because Dan Quinn couldn't get this defense up for big games. He couldn't get them to do what he needed to do. And part of that is Dan Quinn's scheme that seemed wrong for the whole time. But maybe if you have a head coach who walks in there and says, hey, Dan, I've noticed in all of our big games, your defense is wrong. And we need to figure out a way around that. Let's grow as a people together, and we can make a game plan together. And let's grow. I think you're a smart enough guy to figure it out eventually. But we need to make a change, clearly, because this isn't working. And not every single time that something goes wrong, say it will be better. And now you're at the crossroads at the end of the season. You're right on the edge of rebuild time. Right on the edge when you look at the contracts that are coming up. Tyron Smith, Tony Pollard, Gilmore, Biotish, Armstrong, Kearse, Lewis, Hankins, all free agents. And I know you drafted Mozzie Smith to replace Hankins, but then you made him lose weight, and he don't look like he could play like Hankins did. Couldn't stop the run there. All those are free agents this year, next year. So if you try and bring some of those back, sign big deals for those guys, you've got extensions coming up too. What do you do about those? Next year. So now, if you're talking about that's just this year, next year's free agents, Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence, Brandon Cooks, Zach Martin, CeeDee Lamb, Leighton Vander Esch. It's a lot of extendable names on that list. That's a lot of people that if you're in the mood to, hey, this is not getting us there, and we really want to win a Super Bowl, well, this is the time. This is the time to do it. This is the time to take your shot. This is your time to go in and try to create something special. This is your time to say, okay, we have a 2-year window to rebuild, retool, reset our salary cap, reset our coaching, reset what we want to do, and figure out our way forward. And we may not be great. We may not be a 12-win team every year, but in 3 years, we may be in a place where we can go for a Super Bowl. But you got to make this decision now, because if you don't make it now and you go another year of restructuring contracts to make it so you get Tyron Smith back for another year and he plays another 8 games for you while he's injured, and you get Tyler Biotish back for another 3 or 4 years, but you have to push and renegotiate and restructure other contracts. You re-sign Dak Prescott, give him an extension before the season, so it's not a problem. You extend a Zach Martin, or you extend a CeeDee Lamb, and now all that money's tied up in all of your stuff. Now you can't retool, you can't rebuild, you can't do anything. You're now stuck with that. So you're in a position where you can take a little lump on the chin and continue to grow off of that. But you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it. It's going to be hard. And I don't know if Jerry Jones, who's too loyal, and I know people don't think he is, but he's too loyal to his guys, can be the guy to pull a Band-Aid. I don't know if he can be the guy to sit there and tell Dak Prescott there is no contract extension. I'm drafting another quarterback. I'm keeping Trey Lance, and we're trying to find your replacement. So go show me that we don't need to get your replacement next year, because I'm going to use you next year, because contractually it doesn't make sense for me to try and get rid of you. I'm not going to get the draft pick I want with you with 1 year left on your deal and the restructure money and everything else. I'm not going to get the deal I'd probably want for it. So I'm going to keep you for 1 more year. I know Cowboys fans don't want to hear that, but I'm going to keep Dak for another year. I'm getting rid of Mike McCarthy. I get it, but I just can't have him anymore. I need to have somebody come in that is going to come back and bring in other ideas, whether that is a Bill Belichick, whether that is a try and call up the Steelers and see if they want to give Mike Tomlin, if that's Mike Vrabel to bring some toughness to this team. Is that Jim Harbaugh? If it's any of those guys, you can bring those guys in. But for the Cowboys, you have to make that decision. Are you going to move forward and try to build a championship team, or are you going to do what Jerry Jones likes to do and do what Jerry Jones always likes to do, which is to make the Cowboys a 12-win team, and who cares about the rest? I'll say I want to win a Super Bowl, but I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid, I'm going to smoke the hopium, and I'm going to hope for the best. Is that what it's going to be? All right, we're going to take a break. Let's hit the big fat poll before we do that, because I do want to bring this up for you, because I think there's a lot that the Cowboys need to do. We'll get into that more as the season goes on, or as the offseason goes on now for the Cowboys. But here's a big fat poll of the day. We're going to do the same one as yesterday.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today, 512-447-3776. Who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season? We asked it to you yesterday. We're going to ask you again today. I think there's going to be more people on the text line today because people are going back to work today. 512-447-3776. Who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season? Is Dak, should he be gone? And if you say Dak's going to be gone, I'm fine with you saying Dak's going to be gone. You have to tell me who your quarterback is. And you can't make something crazy. But you can say Kirk Cousins. You can probably go get him. But I want to know a real answer. You're going to say you're going to draft a guy in the late rounds, you're going to trade up for a pick? I don't think Jerry's going to do that. Let me know on the text line, 512-447-3776. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on Sports Complex here on the Horn. Playing some cold songs for you all week because it's cold out there. We'll keep on. If you got any suggestions for cold songs, you can throw those on the text line too. We always appreciate those. Text line's open 512-447-3776. Big Fat Poll today is who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season. You can say McCarthy. You can say whoever else, but coach of the year. And I'm fine with you saying Dak should be gone. I like the question of should Dak be the quarterback next year, but I am putting a caveat. If you say Dak needs to go, I need to know who you have starting at quarterback. Because just saying someone needs to go is not planning. That's not an option. You can't say, well, no, and then Cooper Rush is a quarterback next year and you're a 7-win team at best, probably a 6 or 5-win team. Trey Lance, maybe that's the guy. I didn't know who it is. Do you think, okay, and if you're going to tell me quarterback, it's got to be at least a round 2 grade so that you can get him in before everybody else does. So, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with any of those options. If you feel they're better, if that's what you feel is better than Dak, but just saying anyone's better than Dak is crazy when he was second in MVP voting in week 16. So that you can't say, well, the guy who's second in MVP voting in week 16, but now a trash can would be better. I get that it may be time for a change of scenery. I'm not debating that because it really could be. But the question for the Cowboys is, who do you find better? And I think you give him one more year while you get yourselves ready, and you don't be beholden to Dak. You be beholden to yourself. And you go out and try and get another quarterback, you see if Trey Lance works, and you have 2 quarterbacks in your system that are trying to replace Dak Prescott, and you don't give him a new contract. If he walks, he walks. That's fine. But, I don't think you're getting the picks back you want for him that you think you are. But that's just me. Or is Baker Mayfield the guy? It's Baker Mayfield. Do you want to go after and get Baker Mayfield and say he's better? Look at what he's doing right now for Tampa Bay. Hook 'em up with Ian Robbie. Talked about Baker this morning. Some pretty good stuff. Want to play that for you right now on a replay from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie right now on the Sports Complex.
All right, let's get to a couple of nuggets here about the game last night. I don't talk about Baker Mayfield because I think his story this season has been just nothing short of extraordinary. We were talking about the games and how the wild card weekend has been underwhelming. It just haven't been competitive games. You only had one game that really was competitive and not a blowout, and that was the Rams and the Lions. But if you look at the season, sometimes the season can foreshadow what's going to happen in the postseason. If you look at the largest margin of victory in games between teams, with a win percentage of 60% or better. So we're looking at good teams playing, or good teams who have won 60% of their games or better. And this goes all the way back to 1978. So you're talking about 46 seasons worth of sample size. 2023 season was the 3rd largest margin of victory in games decided between good teams who won at least 60% of their games. You had 13.8 margin of victory between good teams. That's only behind 1993 when it was 14 and 2014 when it was 15.4. So you go look, and 10 of those games were decided by 14 plus points, like more than 2 touchdowns. So half of the games between good teams this season were decided by more than 2 touchdowns, and the average margin of victory between good teams facing off this season was 13.8 points. So it did kind of foreshadow that this season, when for whatever reason, like as a football investigator, I gotta try football theorists to go try to figure out why. But when you've had good teams facing off teams that are winning a lot of games, they end up being blowouts. I thought during the regular season the best explanation would be the quarterbacks. You've had so much quarterback turnover. You've had so many quarterback injuries that maybe that's the reason why, because of the quarterbacks. But in the postseason, I don't know if that necessarily applies. So it could just be a coaching disparity. Coaching disparity plus quarterback turnover, I think, is why you got that during the regular season. And if you look at wire-to-wire playoff wins, this is when basically a team has to lead the entire game in the playoffs. In 2023 already, you've had 5 wire-to-wire. Basically wire-to-wire playoff wins. In 2022, you had 6 the entire postseason. We still got the divisional round left. We still got the championship round left and the Super Bowl. You had 6 the entire postseason of 2022 and 2021. You had 8 in 2020. I believe that you'll surpass 8 this season potentially. And that's not a good thing for the NFL. The NFL wouldn't like that. They would like lead, changes to go back and forth between both teams to show a competitive game. But yeah, for some reason you have had the blowouts, as E mentioned. So there's some stats kind of to back up the trend. It was a trend from the regular season, not a shock that it's carrying over into the postseason. There you go. All right, let's talk about Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield is an extraordinary story, and he should win Comeback Player of the Year. I don't know if he will. I'm not sure even when those awards are coming out. We haven't even gotten
NFL honors.
MVP.
NFL honors.
Is he going to do a show?
Yeah, they do that. I'm going to assume it's it used to be the Saturday before the Super Bowl, but I think they've changed it to where it's like the Thursday night before the Super Bowl, and they do it like the NBA awards or whatever, and big red carpet thing, and they hand out all their awards. Yeah. I believe that's how they do it now.
Okay.
Well, NFL honors.
All right. Well, so we got to wait a little while to find out who's going to win all these awards. But it seems like Baker Mayfield, as he mentioned, he should be in the running or a front runner to be Comeback Player of the Year. And I went back, first of all, a couple of nice nuggets from his performance in this playoff win. And he's got 2 playoff wins. Cowboys fans, that should make you feel a certain kind of way, because, yes, he's got the same number of playoff wins as Dak Prescott. And Jalen Hurts, by the way. He got more than Deshaun Watson, so that's karma. But Baker Mayfield has the first 300-yard, 3-touchdown playoff game in Bucs passing history. Brady had the top 5 playoff games in passing yards before tonight. Mayfield's 337 yards that he had in that playoff game ranked 3rd, and it basically it's him and Brady kind of littered all throughout that thing. The record books for the Bucs, and that's amazing that he's already based on this season, he's already in some of the kind of rarefied air Bucs quarterback. They don't have a lengthy storied history of quarterbacks, but still, Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff, they join Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Brett Favre and Alex Smith as quarterbacks to start in division round for 2 franchises in the past 20 seasons. That's rare, right? Starting for different franchises. You just don't see that in the playoffs. So give Baker Mayfield some credit there. That's really tough for a young QB. And he's only been playing 6 seasons. Feels like Baker Mayfield's been in the league a long time. And it only feels like he's been in the league a long time is because he's been with multiple teams already, and he's had so many head coaches. How about this stat for Baker Mayfield? I think it's a credit to him. He's had the most head coaches for any quarterback in NFL history in his first 6 seasons. No quarterback has had more head coaches than Baker Mayfield has had in his first 6 seasons. If you include interims, he's had 8 of them in 6 seasons. Freddie Kitchens, Hugh Jackson, Kevin Stefanski, Matt Rule, Sean McVay, Todd Bowles, Steve Wilkes, and Greg Williams. All head coaches that Baker Mayfield's had to deal with. Guys, there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of messaging changing up. There's a lot of different terminology, a lot of different ways that they want to cultivate the culture. That's just, ways to motivate. That is a lot for a young QB to deal with. And when you go look at the offensive coordinators, a lot of these guys the head coaches are their own play callers, like Stefanski, like a Sean McVay. But if you include the play callers and offensive coordinators in that too, that's 9 play callers and offensive coordinators he's had in his first 6 seasons in the NFL. I think that would, honestly, I think that would hurt and affect anybody's development, growth, evolution as a QB. And so I'm not saying that, we see not Baker Mayfield's going to turn to a franchise quarterback all of a sudden, but it is interesting that he's gone this circuitous route. And we're seeing this more and more, right, in the NFL. Jared Goff. Look at Jared Goff now with the Lions. Now he went from being a bridge quarterback for them, a bust at one point in his career, to being resuscitated to be a Super Bowl quarterback, and then thrown on a trash heap in a trade. And now he went from being a bridge quarterback to being a franchise quarterback. That is a road less traveled for a QB. Even look at what Geno Smith did with the Seattle Seahawks. You're seeing more of that now because I think you have more quarterback gurus and quarterback nurturers in the NFL who know how to resuscitate a quarterback skill set. Because it may not be the skill set that was the problem. That's why they were drafted high. It may have just been the psychology or the system or bad quarterback habits, different things. And they're able to, do a great job of developing these quarterbacks and building on their strengths and de-emphasizing their weaknesses. But either way, it's remarkable what he's done. potentially this year, but considering the background of what he's had to deal with, 8 different head coaches, the most for any quarterback in NFL history. It's a pretty astounding, remarkable feat for him to be playing at the level he's playing at right now. So congrats to Baker Mayfield. By the way, Bucks were 100-1 odds to win the Super Bowl before the season started. I gave this stat earlier. I gave you this fact earlier. Tampa Bay, along with Houston, by the way, they are the 2 teams who had 100-1 odds or higher to win the Super Bowl before the season started, and they're now in the divisional round. 3rd time since 1978, since the wild card format was implemented, that they've had 200-1 or higher odds teams in the divisional round. So shout out to C.J. Stroud, of course, but also to Baker Mayfield, man. That's a hell of a accomplishment.
Well, I'd also say, Baker seems like he's been in the league longer because you just went through all the coaches, and that's great stats. Circuitous, as you said. Well, his college career was circuitous too. I mean,
yeah, right.
I mean, for us, we do what we do. We've been talking about Baker Mayfield since he left Lake Travis and was a great player, and he walked on at Tech and got at odds in his family with Cliff Kingsbury. Then he had to walk on at Oklahoma, where he had to fight the NCAA to not sit out.
The Baker Mayfield rule.
Yeah, the Baker Mayfield rule. And then he went on to have a great career at Oklahoma, and even that was star-crossed and controversial. Remember planting the flag in Columbus,
grabbing the crotch,
the arrest in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, Baker Mayfield's only been in the NFL for 6 years, but he's been in our public conscience for the last 11 or 12.
It feels like 11 or 12. Yeah, going back to Lake Travis. Yeah, good. Maybe you're right. That's what it is. Good point, E.
Yeah, I mean,
good point.
Yeah, it's only 60, but yeah, I mean, he's been I don't want to say a rock star, but he's been a huge topic of ours.
He was a rock star. It's fair to say he was a rock star. I think he was. I mean, he went to the Heisman finalist, like 3 different times or something like that. There's a rule. There's a rule nicknamed the Baker Mayfield rule. Remember, and he went to Cleveland and he started going at it with like Colin Cowherd and like members of the media. He was a rock star for a while, and you know what? He had a precipitous fall from grace. And now he's reinventing himself.
Yeah, that's
a lot of props, man.
And I think you mentioned earlier that, he should be the comeback player of the year, and that's my opinion. But I think my opinion is skewed because we've covered Baker for so long, and he's come back. And I want to hear something. I sent you. We're going to play this, but by the way, the NFL honors. I have the date if you want to watch when they're going to hand out all the NFL awards. It is in Vegas. Ahead of the Super Bowl.
Of course it
Resorts
is.
World Theater in Las Vegas. It's going to be February the 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern, the 13th annual NFL Honors, so the Thursday night before the Super Bowl in Vegas. But listen to this. So again, for folks listening on this Tuesday morning coming off of the long weekend, listen to Baker Mayfield. He's always been abrasive. Just kind of ahead of him. I mean, he's one of those guys, either you love him or you hate him, right? He's a polarizing guy. And a lot of Longhorn fans hated him because he went to Oklahoma. And then he was so good at Oklahoma, but he would kind of stick it in your face a little bit. Listen to him last night. This is with Lisa Salters after they just won a playoff game. Yeah. I think he should be comeback player of the year. Listen to how calm he sounds. Listen to some of the, we don't have to play the Harold thing, Ty, but listen to just how he just sounds like a different guy. Listen to Baker Mayfield, who's had 8 coaches in 6 seasons, as you just documented.
It's been 3 years since your last playoff win. Just what has the wait been like?
We've fought so hard to get to this point, to get a chance to be in the playoffs, and I'm so proud of this team tonight. The way we came out and started fast. I'm so proud. And so we wanted to give ourselves a chance, and now we did just that. We can play better than we did tonight, but it's on to the next one, so we're on to Detroit.
You've said that this is the most fun and most comfortable you've been in such a long time. Just what felt good tonight with this offense?
Just the communication throughout the week. Everybody was on the same page, knew what we were going to do offensively, schematically, and came out and attacked. Obviously got to make a few more plays overall on offense, but we made more than enough to win tonight.
And it wasn't just Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. It was Trey Palmer, David Moore, K-Dot. And just what does that say about this group?
It's huge for us, for our younger guys to step up like that. A lot of teams are going to try and double cover Mike and Chris. And so for those guys to step up and make huge plays for us tonight is big time. So looking to capitalize that and learn and grow from it.
And as you watched your defense shut them down.
Lisa Salters.
I agree with you. That's maturity there.
Yeah,
that wasn't there when he first got to the league.
Yeah. I watched that last night. I watched it in real time. Thank you, Ty, for having that. I was like, Baker's grown up. He's fun because many times did we watch Baker, and it was tough for us here in Austin because he's from Austin, went to Oklahoma. But I always kind of I knew people that knew Baker real well, and they spoke well of him. It's like you want to root for him, but then he does things where you're like, come on, Baker. Come on, man. Come on. Grow up. Just grow up.
Mhm.
And he's all grown up now.
Yeah, he's also expecting his first child. I bet that has something to do with it, he
Yeah.
and his wife. So that always also changes your mindset, as you
For
know.
sure, 100%.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
And it's, good for him. Good for Baker. And I know still a lot of people out there will always hate Baker Mayfield because he's a
Of
Sooner
course, yeah.
and all the stuff. But, man, I'm happy for him. It seems like he's grown up. And you know what? Look, Tampa Bay is probably going to sign him to a contract. It might be one of those Jared Goff, Geno Smith bridge contracts.
Yeah.
But they're not letting that guy get away because
No.
he's played too well.
Yep.
And they don't
won
have
you a playoff game.
Yeah.
You won a playoff game.
Yeah, but no, he's not
Those are
going
hard to do.
But guess what? Dak Prescott's about to get extended and be maybe the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Mhm.
And what's he doing?
Nothing.
We're coming up small again.
That's it, yeah, nothing really. So I'm with you. I think
Good
they will
for
sign him.
Baker.
They sign him to a deal, and I've always been a fan of Baker. People know that. They give me grief for it, but he my favorite Sooner, and I know that's weird to say. It's like saying you got a favorite serial killer, but
Yeah,
he
I
is
know.
my favorite Sooner. I think it's my favorite Sooner to watch. I'll say that.
Yeah, and he's Jalen Hurts would be in that conversation too, but he didn't have a good
But
night.
he wasn't
last
there. He wasn't there for long. Like Baker Mayfield was there for. I think he was at like
3 years, 4 years. Yeah.
Heisman finalists. Like, come
Yeah.
on, man. He was
No.
there forever.
So good for him. Good for Baker, and he's played really well.
He has
played
played
really well.
Yeah.
So props to him for finding the maturity, growing up, and he's going to give himself another contract. And at least for now, he's be the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving forward, not just a
But like
a
that.
stopgap. He's going to actually be their quarterback.
But think about that division. I mean, whoever's got a quarterback in that division is going to win it.
Yeah, well,
Pretty much.
We'll give you some bullish or BS on that coming up. Here it is. Less Baker Mayfield talk, please. Thank you. Yeah, well,
Well,
look,
he just won a playoff game last night. What do you?
yeah,
what do you
no,
want to say?
I think he's playing along with
Oh
us.
yeah,
but-
they're like, come on.
But yes, this says, guys, what do you think about the Super Bowl permanently being in Vegas? Don't like it. I like the Super Bowl moving around, Rod.
Yeah, it's good for the NFL.
But I have argued bullish on the NFL draft permanently being in Vegas. That's what I believe.
They want to move that around too. For them,
Yeah.
basically, that turns into almost a festival of sorts, a football festival of sorts. I mean, they're getting 500,000 people in the streets in Nashville for that thing.
No,
They're
I
getting,
know.
250,000 people. They're getting numbers that will rival, ACL Fest
No, I know.
and
It's
some of the big music festivals around the country. So why would you just have it in Vegas when you basically can take it on tour around the country?
Because I can go to Vegas, and I don't
Yeah,
want
but
to
you're
go. I
going
don't want
to
to go
Vegas
to
anyway.
Kansas City.
You're going to Vegas anyway for the Raiders.
Well,
You're gonna go to Vegas for the Raiders, and they're gonna have the draft there again. You'll go for other reasons and stuff like that. But
I
I'm
just
with you.
having been there when they had it there, that would be it was perfect. Because
Permanently, I don't know. Permanently, I don't like it. I have it there again, but not permanently. They should move everything around.
People, I'm for that being permanent. I like them moving the combine around. That's kind of cool. And then moving the Super Bowl around, but that's just personal opinion. All right. So Baker Mayfield, all the way full circle, and he will lead the Buccaneers into Detroit this weekend, as you just heard with Lisa Salters. They'll play the Lions. That will be the first game on Sunday, the middle of the afternoon game on Sunday, Rod. What a game that'll be. Baker Mayfield back Jared Goff, another former first-round pick, of course. He's gone through the car wash, too,
Yeah.
of rebuild, reinvention.
Number 1 overall picks, though.
Yeah, both of them, number 1 overall picks. And I'll say this for Baker to wrap that up. I do think it was, too much too quick for him, right? Because Baker's always been the chip on the shoulder, got to prove it guy. Because he was a walk-on twice, right? And then he still achieved and won a Heisman Trophy. And then he was the first pick, which is kind of getting over when people said he was too small. And he ends up as the number 1 pick. And I just think he was out to prove something for folks. And he was always in the headlines. Too many commercials, too much hype, too much. The argument with the situation with Odell Beckham Jr. when he was in Cleveland was just a mess. So it's like, he's finally grown up and he's just playing football. And we always, if you ever watch Baker Mayfield just play football, he's a good football player.
He's a good football player.
But
So
all
he
the
was
other
drafted
stuff.
number 1 overall.
Yeah,
First
all-
walk-on to ever be drafted number 1 overall.
Now it's get rid of all the other stuff and just play ball.
Yeah.
Just play football. And that's what it feels like Baker's doing.
Well, I think he was a guy that used, a lot of the doubt, and he used a lot of the criticism as motivational currency, and he was brilliant at turning, the negative narrative against him or the circumstance against him into that motivational currency, the chip on the shoulder that you talked about. But he would spend it on the football field, and then you would see it materialize on the football field because he would make these spectacular plays that turned him into, a Heisman finalist. But when he got to the NFL, he mistakenly started spending the motivational currency with the media
Yeah.
and with his own teammates. And that's and usually, like I said, that friction, that angst that he used as as fuel, it was something that he used on the field against opponents, and then he started to use it against the media. He started to use it against his own teammates, and that's when it became toxic. And that's when the world started to close in on him. And then it even affected his play because he couldn't figure out psychologically, well, why does the media hate me and my teammates not follow me? When I was in college, my teammates they would go to war for me. They want they would fight claw tooth and nail for me, and the media loved me because I was a media darling. But I think he realized, like, oh, it's because I wasn't against him. I wasn't opposed to the media, and I wasn't. Remember, he said that comment about, I forget what running back it was, who was in a contract dispute with the Cleveland Browns. And he actually made a comment about the contract dispute.
You don't talk about another man's money.
Yeah, and it was like, Baker, you don't do that, man. You say, hey, man, we'd love to have him back. Hey, right now we're working with the guys we got, whatever it is, because you're going to be in that situation too. So he started to get it out with his own teammates and with his own coaching.
Oh, yeah, they want him out of Cleveland.
He's taking shots at his own coaching staff. So he got into it with his coaching staff, with his own teammates, and with the media. So he started to wonder, why is nobody on my side? Well, Baker, you're getting into it with everybody. And in college, all those people were on your side, your teammates, the media, the fans, and I think ultimately he learned that lesson, but that's just maturity. And now he realizes, like, it's easier to make enemies than it is to make friends.
Well, and to your point, Rod, he's only 6 years in, and he's still got a lot of football in him.
A lot of football.
So,
quarterback's playing to 40.
Because a lot of guys don't come back from that. They don't grow up. They don't figure it out. So good for Baker. Does look like he does. That'll be a fun game.
Is Baker even 30? Is he even 30?
Baker's 28, by the way. Baker's 28. Good stuff there from me and Rob B. from Hook 'em Up this morning. Weekday 6 to 11 right here on the Horn. Right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get to the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We're asking you, who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season? And if you want Dak gone, who can replace him? And it's got to be legitimate. It's got to be somebody you can get. Who can you go get to replace Dak? Who's the person you want to get? If you say Dak's gone, I need to hear a replacement. We'll get to that when we come back here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019 and 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on Sports Complex here on the Horn. Get in the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. We're asking you who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season. If you want to get rid of Dak, who do you want to get? And we see some. I'll get to some of the. I like hire Mike Vrabel, and it's time for Dak to go. I like that, but I need you to tell me who you want to replace Dak, and it's got to be realistic. I need to get that one. Daydrinker77 says, bring me Justin Herbert and Bill Belichick. We got the money. One of those is realistic. Bill Belichick is realistic. That's a possible thing. I will tell you, if you think you're getting Justin Herbert, you must have been day drinking. I appreciate texting in and listening, but you must have been day drinking. Just remember that when Deshaun Watson demanded a trade and sat out a season for the Texans, it still took 3 first-round picks, a third, a fourth, and a sixth. He had to get a fully guaranteed contract, and that's all while he was going to be suspended for probably a year for multiple allegations of indecent actions and conduct detrimental to the league and all of that. And he still was 3 first, a third, a fourth, and a sixth. Justin Herbert's probably 7 firsts, something like that. It is a insane thing that how much he would take to get. So that's all I'm saying is Justin Herbert the price may be too big. He just signed that big contract extension, so he ain't going to be a free agent. And so somebody else he may have to go and get. We ran up against it on the clock there, but I'm going to come back and get to more text messages, get some basketball talk as well. Texas out of the top 25. We'll talk a little bit about Texas men's basketball, maybe a little NBA talk too if we got some time. But more of your text messages, 512-447-3776 is the text line. We'll come back and get to more of those texts right here on the Sports Complex, the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 here on the Sports Complex on the Horn. Get into some basketball talk here in a minute. Talk a little bit of Texas dropping out of the top 25. Got a big game tomorrow, which shouldn't be a big game, but it is now. We'll get into that. Maybe a little NBA talk as well. A lot of teams played yesterday. Basically, everybody played yesterday for MLK Day, so not a lot of action tonight, but some other news happening around in the NBA. We may get into that, too, if we have some time. And, of course, your text messages, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. And we're talking a lot of Cowboys today because, after the early exit, that's kind of one of the main conversations right now. Is Mike McCarthy the question of the day? The poll of the day? Who should be the coach of the Cowboys next season? Is it Mike McCarthy or is it somebody else? You got somebody else who's a legitimate, viable option at coach. There's some better options you probably thought you were going to have. You got Bill Belichick's available. He's clearly interested in coaching. Talk to the Falcons. He's taking interviews. He didn't retire. Mike Vrabel, heck of a coach, brings you a little bit more toughness. I'm sure if you called the Steelers, they'd at least listen about a trade for Mike Tomlin. Jim Harbaugh, looking at what he's going into in Michigan and the contract he wants in Michigan, where he wants to have immunity if he's suspended or any punishments from the NCAA. He wants immunity and still have the highest paid coach, even if he's not allowed to coach. He wants that. So maybe he's going to the NFL. There's some decent options out there, some better than there are a lot of other years. So who's that? And if Dak's not the guy, which I'm not saying he is, but if he's not the guy, who do you think should be the next quarterback of the Cowboys? And how do you get that quarterback? Who replaces him? How do you go about getting him? All that. Let us know on the text line if you got any other things that help fit the Cowboys. And I know we get a lot of texts, and I do want to reset some things because we're going to get into it because I'm going to rant about Jerry Jones in a minute because I know a lot of you guys are still mad at Jerry Jones. But there's something I'm going to defend Jerry Jones in just a minute, which I don't like to do, but I'm going to because there's something that I think gets left out of the conversation with Jerry Jones. I do want to reset, though, that the news we've gotten today, that yesterday and over the weekend, we got the news that Dwayne Aquina seemed like he was going to be coming back to Texas as some sort of role under Sark's reign or Sark's era of coaching here at Texas, that we thought he would be coming back. It appears now that Dwayne Aquina will not be coming back. He is going to turn right back around and head back to Arizona. They hired their new coach, Brennan, from San Jose State. So he has been able to, and him and Arizona have been able to apparently convince Dwayne Aquina to come back and be a part of the coaching staff there at Arizona. Reports are that the players at least want them to try and go and pay a lot of money to get Johnny Nansen to come back, the new linebacker / co-DC that Texas hired from Arizona. They would like him to come back to be the DC. The question is, was there a risk with Jedd Fisch? And that's why he would be available now. Would be more willing to come back. Is the money way better? What does he have more control? Those types of things will be the question. We don't know that yet, but we'll see about that. But those are the big stories from Texas football. Still seeing how the situation plays out there in Arizona. They still do not have a defensive line coach at Texas. And, we'll see if they're either looking maybe for some transfers from Arizona or trying to figure out who their new linebacker coach is going to be at Texas. Both those could be happening, and those could happen in the next hour. It could happen the next week. We don't know. We'll keep you updated right here on the Sports Complex. Let's get back to the text line, 512-447-3776. And we've gotten a lot of these. We'll keep going to them. Text says, next coach, Jerry Jones. He runs it. He already might as well put the headset on. Just dumb. Just dumb. Hating on Jerry Jones, and I'm sure there's more of those, and we'll get to them. So try and read everybody's text here on the Sports Complex. Let's say this about Jerry Jones. As much as we want to blame him, and he does take blame in this, because he does take blame in what the culture is there, and he does take blame in hiring the coaches. You cannot say that the Cowboys are not a talented team. You cannot say he has not spent money to bring in talent, and he has gone out there. Now, he could have done more. Could he have gone and got another running back? Yes. Could he have tried to get another linebacker? Yes. Could he have leveraged some of the future for today? Yes. But do you have a more talented roster than Green Bay? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Do you have a more talented roster than Tampa Bay, who's still in the playoffs? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Jerry Jones gave you a talented enough roster to make it to the conference championship. There's the talent there. And as much as you hate Dak Prescott, and I know it's hurting right now because he threw 2 big picks in that game, Dak Prescott was second in MVP 3 weeks ago. So I know there's issues there, but it's not that the talent level is not there. The talent level, he's giving you that. So as much as we give crap to Jerry Jones, he's not giving you the Panthers roster and then wondering why it doesn't work. He's giving you decent players. The problem is that can you create a culture? Can you get a coach in that wants to create a culture? And so if you're saying, okay, well, it's Jerry Jones and it's his fault because he brought in Mike McCarthy, but let's keep Mike McCarthy. That's a jump in logic for me. Then I say, cool, get rid of Mike McCarthy. Is it that Dan Quinn? Is it like, did he step in the way of the defense? Did he go into Dan Quinn and tell him this is the only defense you're allowed to run? No. But Dan Quinn kept playing the same defense. Now you can say Jerry Jones is on top, so he's going to take the blame for all this. But to say Jerry Jones just in himself is garbage at what he does as just a general manager, not the president of operations, just general manager, he's a decent GM right now. And Stephen Jones has helped him. Will McClay's a huge part of that. They've drafted pretty well recently. They've built up an O-line that's a lot better than it used to be. And I know it was better. It was a run offensive line when you had DeMeco Ryan and DeMarco Murray. You had him, and it was a more run line, and they changed it more to a pass line now. But you can't say that Jerry Jones has not acquired talent, because he has. So then it goes into, okay, now as he president of a team, now is he hiring the right guys to do that? And I think that's where he's coming up short, because he's loyal, because he doesn't necessarily want a guy who's going to come in and push and challenge the norm. That I will give you. That I think is the problem. But to say that Jerry Jones over the top, there's way worse owners in the NFL. Now, their fingerprints aren't over everything, but they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to bring in the right guys to get general managers to bring the right people in. They don't want to stay the course and trusting guys to build them. They don't want to do that. Jerry's not the worst owner in the NFL, not by a long shot. You don't make the playoffs every year and then underperform if you're not a good general manager at some point in there. So we have to give Jerry some credit for what he's done. So instead of just going, well, Jerry, he should be the coach, he should be everything, he wasn't coaching his team. He put together a really good talent, and he hired a coach who didn't have enough backbone to go in there and yell at his team once this season and get them mad and get them to play at a level. They've never played at a higher level than they should have played. They played at the level they should have been playing with the talent on that roster. But I'm not giving that to Jerry. I'm not going to put that straight on Jerry Jones, that he should be that guy. I'm not going to put that on him. I think he's done better at some things. He's gotten better as time has gone on. Is he the best? No, not by a long shot. But to just pretend that Jerry Jones is the reason this team will never win and not put into account that, okay, well, maybe the fan base who continually yells at him instead of saying, well, no, but why don't you get a coach that we don't all like? That maybe we get a Bill Belichick that we respect and don't like. Why don't you go get a Mike Vrabel who we may all, we don't have to like the guy. He may yell at the player or something. Maybe the team all wanting to be best friends is not the best case scenario for you every single year. Text says, Baker didn't make it about himself. Maturity. Yes, Baker has shown a lot more maturity this year. I think being out and being left for dead and then coming back to life has shown him a lot. He's been we haven't seen the clips of him. And maybe being in Tampa Bay and being in a division in the NFC South where it's just not as much TV time has been good for him. Texter says, give Lance the Rock and draft a QB and Bill Cowher. I don't know. Bill Cowher has not coached since 2006. So I don't know if I'd bring him back. But I think my theory, and I'll keep counting on this poll, is Dak Prescott, you let him have one more year because it's cost prohibitive. You're not going to get the draft picks back you want. I know I just said that we saw what Deshaun Watson got for nothing. I don't think anybody's giving up, a ton of picks for Dak Prescott with 1 year left on his deal. I think they'd rather wait it out and know that the Cowboys would get rid of him in a year and they could probably sign him in a year. I think they'd rather do that than try and give up 2 or 3 firsts for him. So you maybe get a first, maybe a second, and get rid of Dak, and then you have nothing. And then you're hoping to get a quarterback in that pick that can come out and play the first season, but your best season is 8 or 9 wins, plus you're getting a coach, and that guy's got to come in with that. I think what I do is I try and get a quarterback late first round, second round. I get Trey Lance a year to see if he's the guy, and I give Dak Prescott, don't give him a new deal, and tell him to go out there and earn the contract. And I think Dak's the type of guy who's not going to sit out. I think Dak will go out and try and do it. And if Dak earns a contract and you win the playoffs, great. If he doesn't, you don't. And you move on and you figure out if Trey Lance is the guy or you figure out if your rookie's a guy. But you give it another year. That's what I do. Texter says, trade Dak, whoever, and draft a QB or 2. We're starting over anyway. Hire Harbaugh available. You're not starting over. That's the problem. Jerry doesn't want to start over. That's your Jerry Jones problem is he wants to be good every year. He wants to be relevant every year. So you're not going to start over. He's going to restructure contracts again. He's going to put you in a situation where you don't have a ton of cap space again. That's what he's going to do. Texas men's basketball is pure garbage. That's untrue, but we'll get to that in a minute. They played like it on Saturday. I will give you on Saturday they played like it, but I will not give you that they are garbage. But Dave says will never happen. Jimmy Johnson is GM and Jim Harbaugh is coach. I like that. Jimmy Johnson showed what he could do. Again, guys that have been away from football for that long, it's always questionable to me to bring back because the game evolves so quickly that there's like a 3-year period, and I get they're talking about it, but they're not in the scene the same way. That always worries me a little bit. But I'm not against any of that. Man, Chan says, which one of the coaches out there, whichever one. Cars, yeah, that was not the Cars I played earlier. What did I play first? I don't even remember what I played first, but I did not play the Cars, Chan. I have to go back and think of what I played first. Oh, I played the Rolling Stones. I played the Rolling Stones first. She's So Cold. It was not the Cars, the Rolling Stones. Which one of the NFL coaches out there is willing to kowtow to Jerry J shall be hired? And that's the thing, is you need to go in there and be tough with Jerry, and he may not hire you, but that's what you want as a coach if you're a fan. And what about Jake Browning? No, Jake Browning is not going to save the Cowboys. Texter says, Jerry Jones never addressed the running back room. All the pressure was on Dak's arm for the offense. Pollard is the number 2. He doesn't have what it takes to carry a team. He's a great change of pace. So you can have them both have 15 carries, but he needs another back in there. I agree with you there. You had to use the Panthers roster as an example. Yes, I did. Because their roster is really not good. They have a lot of problems on that roster. And they did need another running back. I agree with that as well. I agree with that. But to say, well, he's a terrible GM. By the way, we had Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, who we drafted CeeDee Lamb, and we drafted, we traded for Brandon Cooks. We got Stephon Gilmore, who's a big addition. You looked at all those pieces. They did have good stuff. Are you still really high on UT men's basketball team, or the loss this weekend raised deeper concerns? We'll get into that. I'm not really high on them. I'm not as low as everybody else is. We'll get to that in just a second. And Mike Vrabel won with mediocre teams in Tennessee. Keep Dak. There are no better option. That's more what I'm on. I'm giving Dak one more year. Personally, that's what I would do. Who knows what will happen? I don't think they're going to get rid of him. If you look at his contract and, you're not cutting him, clearly, because that would be a lot. So you're going to try and trade him. You got to find a trade partner who's going to give him a new deal if you trade him that he'd want to go to. You're maybe getting back a first, maybe a first and like a third or something like that, but probably a second, probably more of an Aaron Rodgers package, which is terrible for a guy as young as Dak Prescott. But I don't think anybody, because everybody knows there's 1 year left on the deal. And it's just, I don't know if anybody really believes he's going to be the franchise guy. You're kind of taking a chance. Whereas Deshaun Watson was a guy you felt was a franchise guy, like Justin Herbert. We talked about, you feel like is a franchise guy. Day Drinker says, I know it was a long shot. Let Dak show us one more year and give Vrabel. Okay, I'm with you there, Day Drinker. I thought you maybe just had a couple drinks. It's your text line name is Day Drinker 77, so I could believe you were a Day Drinker. Let's talk a little Texas basketball before we go to the break here. So Texas basketball lose to West Virginia over the weekend. Texas basketball drops out of the top 25 in the new AP poll. And I know I keep seeing people going after Rodney Terry, and part of this is Rodney, because everything's going to be part of the coaching. I am not as down on Rodney Terry. I'm not going to. I refuse to accept the fact that anyone could have done what he did last year. That's just insane. I saw how bad the team, offensively was early in the year. I saw Sir'Jabari Rice emerge later in the season. I saw Dylan Dessou emerge later in the season. All of those things were done by Rodney Terry and his staff. So I'm going to give him credit for those. I'm going to give him credit for the run to the Elite Eight. I'm going to give him credit for that. I know other people won't. He recruited all those players too. But I will say that when you watch this Texas team, you can see a team that doesn't play basketball like a team. Their defense tries to more. Their offense doesn't play like a team at all. And there's some issues. And Rodney Terry has hinted now that the starting lineup will probably change. Now, we've said since the beginning that Caden Shedrick should be in that starting lineup instead of Brock Cunningham. Brock Cunningham hasn't hit a shot in the Big 12 play. That's going to be a problem. Now you mix in Brock Cunningham not hitting a shot in Big 12 play with the fact that Dillon Mitchell, who I really like, has not been able to hit threes, has not taken a lot of threes, has not hit one of them. He's 0 for 7 for threes on the season. He's taken one in Big 12 play. People are standing 7 or 8 feet away from him now. So when you look at the way they space the court just in general, it means that Brock Cunningham and Dillon Mitchell, even if they're trying to space, are going to have guys 5 or 6 feet off of them, making it almost impossible to drive to the paint, making it harder to play passing lanes, making it harder to move an offense at all, moving without the ball, everything else. When some people are playing that far off of you because they don't respect your shot at all, it makes it hard, which means that it's going to be very hard to play Dillon Mitchell and Brock Cunningham at the same time right now. Unless one of them starts hitting threes, it's just really hard to play both those guys there because Dylan Disu can hit some threes. So you can space a little more with Dylan Disu. However, Dylan Disu is really, really good about 12 feet from the basket. So between 15 and 12 feet, he's really good because he can get closer and hit an 80% shot, or that jump shot's probably about a 50, 60% shot, and his three is a 30, 40% shot, which is not bad. But if that, you have to have him take the three because your other guys have to play by the basket and you have no other spacing, that's a problem. For a guy like Max Abmas, he needs to be able to drive and create to get people to back off of his three-point shots. So he's not shooting from 6 feet behind the line. For a guy like Tyrese Hunter, he needs to be able to drive. And when everything's pressed in the middle, that's a problem. And so the starting lineup, which Rodney Terry's apparently addressing and could be changed for UCF, that is issue number one. That you have to get more shooting into that lineup. Now, we can talk about IT Horton, that he has not been the shooter that he needs to be, that he looked like early in the season. He needs to figure that one out as well because his shooting could be valuable to his Texas team. His defense isn't all the way there, and his shooting has gone downhill too. So you need to get his shot back. But in reality, you have to find some more shooting on this team somewhere, and you're going to have to get it to where Dillon Mitchell, he can hit threes. We've seen him hit them in practice, and I get practice and games are two very different things. We've all played games and shot, we all racked off 15 in a row in the gym and then started running up and down the court and missed 15 in a row. That's happened to everybody. So you have to understand that, but he needs to get to shooting that three because if he hits a few, it changes the perspective of things. But the bigger picture of things, because this goes on the defensive end, to the offensive end, to the effort, to the hustle, to everything that's on there. And I know Brock Cunningham wants to hustle and he wants to play. And I know Ziriko Onyema wants to hustle and play. And so does Kendall Weaver. And so does Dillon Mitchell. And so does Dylan Disu. And so does Caden Shedrick. And so does Tyrese Hunter. And so does Max Abmas. They all want to, but they're not because they're not one unit right now. This is not a team as it looks like a team. That's where Texas needs to get. Texas needs to get where everyone is making their decision based on the team, not on themselves. And they're not there right now. I think they can get there, but I think everyone is working right now to improve their game. And they're thinking if I play better, and everyone wants to be the hero, and if everyone plays better, then we'll play better as a team. But that's not necessarily the issue with this Texas team right now. You need Max Abmas and Dylan Disu to carry you through this part where you're not shooting well. And the shot will come back. I know Dillon Mitchell can shoot better than he is shooting. I don't think he's ever going to be a great shot, but if he can hit 30%, then he'll be killing it. And if he can't hit 30%, put him in the corner. Just get him one shot, one space on the court where he knows he can hit three and keep putting him there. And keep running him and moving him around and putting him there. Find him his shot. Brock Cunningham, I love him. Move him to the bench. I think he's a great player. He needs to be part of that energy coming off the bench. He needs to be part for the younger guys to help keep that energy up on the defense when he hits the bench. When Dylan Disu comes out or when Dillon Mitchell comes out, you can put him in. But right now, he got to go to the bench. You have to be able to play as one and what's best for the team. They've been trying to find which guys are going to be playing that way and which guys can play best. We're too far into it now. You have to start playing with one goal in mind and one decision and one way to go in mind. And yes, Rodney Terry needs to start preaching this more. Rodney Terry needs to start getting his guys. But I think changing the starting lineup, that's what he's starting to do. He says, okay, I get it. We tried to put the guys on the court that we felt deserved to be on the court. We tried to do in college basketball what you have to do, which is we can't, not play you guys. We can't do that. We can't push too hard on some of you because you push back, you'll transfer, you'll not play. And so we have to, you have to work within the realm of young players. However, once you get to the point of the season where you drop one to a West Virginia team that you had no business dropping one to, then everyone in the locker room should know they should go back to one goal for Texas. One goal. And that one goal is to help everyone else out on the court. If it's your job to spread the court, then that means you need to get out and you need to run. And if you're not able to draw them out with the ball, then you need to start running screens and you need to start moving around and making chaos on the other side. You have to keep moving. You have to keep doing something, whatever you can do to make the team better, not yourself better, to not worry about Max Abmas has the ball. Well, I think he's going to shoot, so let's all go into the basket and try and get a rebound. And now Max Abmas gets covered and the play's blown up because you all ran under the basket to get a rebound. Because that's what Dylan Mitchell wants to do. That's what Brock Cunningham wants to do. That's what Dylan Dessou wants to do. And then the ball bounces long on a Max Abmas three, and it's a run out the other end with Tyrese Hunter trying to defend three guys. Everyone has to play more for the team and think team and watch where everybody else on the court. That's where Texas needs to go next. We'll see them on Wednesday against UCF. We'll talk about it more tomorrow of what they need to do. If Rodney Terry does announce a change to the starting lineup, we'll try and get that to you before the game tomorrow. But this team's not that far away. The talent is on the team right now. They just don't have the shooting. And without the shooting, you have to find other ways. And the way this team was built in the beginning, okay, well, Dylan Mitchell will start getting his three going. Dylan Dessou can hit some threes. Brock will spread the court. He started to hit some threes last year. He hit some big threes for Texas. That shot's not falling right now. Bring in IT Horton. He's going to stretch the court. Kendall Weaver, intensity on defense. He can stretch the court. He's not hitting threes right now. Do you have to go to Chris Johnson and see if he can start hitting threes? I mean, and I think in a couple games you do. I think you need to find guys who can stretch the court. Because if Tyrese Hunter doesn't hit threes, your team basically completely falls apart, and that's what happened in West Virginia. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, get more on the text line, play another sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B. When we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Some breaking news I've just seen on X. Texas has got a commitment from former Oregon State wide receiver Silas Bolden, adding another wide receiver to the wide receiver core here at Texas. Silas Bolden put up really big numbers, big speedster at Oregon State. Now the question is Oregon State, the competition. It is Pac-12. They had some good teams, but the defense, I don't know how much he will be in the starting lineup and how many receptions we're aiming to get him. But I think especially in special teams, he will be a big factor for Texas next season. And Silas Bolden, who has made a commitment to Texas just here in the last few minutes. So breaking that news for you right now on the Sports Complex. Let's get back to the text line. I see you guys on here. 512-447-3776. We always try to get to everybody on here. Texter says, I also bet Saban could be a great GM. He's proven to build great coaching staff and is respected by all of football. He could probably do pretty well. If it's true, if the story's true that he wanted Drew Brees and they didn't let him get him, then he had the talent to see that Drew Brees was going to be the guy. But I don't know. I don't know if that's revisionist history or not, but that has always been the story. But I don't think he could be I don't know if he'd be a bad one, but I don't know anybody who would necessarily allow him to be completely come in and take over as an unproven NFL commodity. I think he'd make more money in college right now. And I don't know if he would really want to, at 72 years old, go jump back in to be a GM in NFL and risk tarnishing what the legacy is right now. But you never know. Guys like that are sometimes looking up for the challenge. Texter said, Right Guy from New Mexico says, I heard Uncle Rico is still available. If he is, the Cowboys should drop back and go get him. He still guarantees he can throw the football over the mountains. I like that, Right Guy. Appreciate that text from you. Texter says, thank you. Tell E. Hogan that Jerry's put the players and decent coaches in place over the last few years. This is not all on Jerry. Players play and coaches coach, and neither showed up on Sunday. Okay. I like that one. And then Uncle Terry's not the guy, and I refuse to accept that it was him that led the team to Elite Eight. Your reason for them not playing as a team this year is proof of that, Dave Ram. I will tell you, those are two. I appreciate you agreeing with me there. And I don't know how you cannot agree that he took him there. He was the coach. They were playing a very different style of basketball than they were at the beginning. The defense was very much installed by Chris Beard. We can say the defense was installed by Chris Beard. You know what the biggest difference between last year and this year was? They hit threes. Sir'Jabari Rice hit threes. Marcus Carr hit threes. But the fact that Sir'Jabari Rice came out after Chris Beard, and he wasn't playing the same before Chris Beard, the fact that Dylan Dessou, one of the main reasons you get there, was not used at all in the same way before Rodney Terry took over, should tell you need to give him some credit. To just go, no, that is 100% Chris Beard's, even though he wasn't there because of his own dumb decisions. Which, by the way, whether you want to say it's right or wrong, his own dumb decisions is the reason he's not the coach at Texas. And he can dispute that all he wants, but his own dumb decisions of what he did on that night and his response afterwards is why he's not the coach at Texas. So it's his fault that he's not the coach, not anybody else's. Texter says, Rodney Terry is a joke with no punchline, which I don't agree with one bit. And firing Chris Beard was the worst move in Texas athletics history, even worse than hiring Charlie Strong or Tom Herman. Chris Beard has not won a national championship, and I don't think he ever will, but that's just me. Maybe he'll get better. I like Chris Beard. I think he's a really good coach, but his offense sucks right now. He's got to get his offense has been bad. It was bad every year at Texas. It just was. I hated watching his offense. And I know he's doing well in Ole Miss, and good luck to him. He was always a nice guy to me. I hated watching his offense. I just hated watching it because he did not care about offense. He only cared about defense. So he would bench a guy and go out there, and I just don't like watching that kind of basketball. So that was just me. But I think that's a gross overstatement. If you don't like Rodney Terry, please tell me why you don't like Rodney Terry. Because I know that and some people will put it as a term, it's a black guy and a white guy, and you don't like the black guy. I don't think that's the case. I'm not putting that in everybody's case because that seems silly that there's that many people that have that. What is the distinctive reason? And you can't tell me it's play calling or anything else because this isn't about that. Because Rodney Terry took the team and you still won't give him credit. So what is it? You just don't like who he is? Is it you just don't think that he's a head coaching material? And Chris Beard was? I just don't, because Chris Beard was the guy who was going out and drinking with everybody. Chris Beard was the guy who was hanging out with the kid. Like, I don't get the disconnect. It's a disconnect for me. I'm just missing it, and I've never been able to figure it out. I like Chris Beard. I hated his offense. I think Rodney Terry is doing some really good things. I don't know if he's going to be the greatest coach of all time, but I think he should get a shot, and I'm going to give him credit for getting to the Elite Eight and winning the Big 12 because he did that. Jan asks, who should be the starting 5 then for Texas? Right now, I mean, at the end of the day, it should be Caden Shedrick, Dylan Dessou, Dylan Mitchell, Tyrese Hunter, and Max Abmas. We know Tyrese Hunter and Max Abmas are going to be in there. They can both hit threes. And then it's a question of, are you going to be able to get Dylan Mitchell to hit threes? Dylan Mitchell's going to start because he's going to kind of have to, because what he does now, his minutes may get limited. But I think Dylan Mitchell is in your starting lineup. You just need to try and get him to shoot threes and be more confident in the three, and that'll fix a lot of your problems, or start to fix a lot of your problems if he hits a couple threes and they have to start guarding him again. But that's, I think, where you need to go. Don't mind them being unranked. Just learn how to put a full game together. Learn to win off the radar. I agree. Learn to play above your talent. Play your own game. Play your own team. I agree with you there. Texter says, I don't like his stupid glasses. That's a good reason to hate somebody. That's a good reason to hate a good man. I'll never get it. I'm going to play some Saturday Welcome Up with Ian Rob B. Behind the burnt orange curtain today. Good stuff. We'll come back, hit the text line a little bit more here on the Sports Complex, but it's a hook 'em up replay behind the burnt orange curtain with Rob Babers this morning.
I guess it just fit. It was the right timing.
Back here on the Sports Complex. Good stuff there from Mohukama with Ian Rob B. We're going to take a quick break, come back, wrap it up, and hit you with the last couple text messages. When we come back here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. All right, we got to get out of here. A couple last texts. We get RW. I do believe Brock is better coming off the bench. He's been a liability so far, and that's bad. He's been a very loyal team member. He's been okay in some things, but he's got to be able to hit shots. Chan says, thanks for your thoughts on Texas men's basketball team. Appreciate that. And the other texter says, didn't Del Conte say something along these lines? We compete for championships here at Texas. Top 10 is where all athletic programs should be at all times. Basketball team isn't ranked, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to say blah, blah. I'm just running out of time. Sorry. Texas will never be anything but a base. Texas is a good baseball school. Texas is a good football school. Texas is never going to be ranked top 10 year after year after year. They're just not, because basketball is too hard to do that. Basketball players want to play at basketball schools. Now, hopefully we're getting better and we're getting closer, but the season ain't over. We're going to win a big one tomorrow. And until then, be safe, be kind, keep your underwear clean. We'll come back tomorrow, talk more Texas basketball with you guys, because I want to get your opinion. But until then, we'll see you right back here tomorrow, Sports Complex.